Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right in to decode the government's financial blueprint for a sector that is absolutely vital to India's economy and its people, agriculture and farmers' welfare.
So, let's start with the big one, the headline number. This is the total budget for the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. It's a huge figure, for sure, but, a number this big doesn't really tell the whole story.
Exactly. So where does all that money actually go? And what is it supposed to achieve for farmers on the ground? Well, that's what we're going to figure out. We're going to break down the official numbers to see what the government's real priorities are.
We'll tackle this in 5 parts. First, we'll get the big picture. Then we'll compare subsidies versus direct schemes. After that, we'll spotlight the main pillars of farmer support, look at what they're investing in for the future, and finally, wrap up with how the government actually measures success.
All right, first up, let's peel back that first layer. Just looking at the ministry's internal structure tells you a lot about where the main focus is.
And whoa, you can see right away, the split is pretty stark. The lion's share, we're talking over 130,000 crore rupees, goes straight to the Department of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare. Research and education, it gets a much smaller piece of the pie. This tells you right off the bat that the government's primary focus is on direct support and running the current schemes.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. To get the full picture of agricultural spending, you actually have to look outside the ministry's direct budget. You have to look at one other massive expense, subsidies. And wow, just look at this. The budget for fertilizer subsidies, which is handled by a totally different ministry, is a staggering 170,000 crore rupees. That is more than the entire budget for the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare itself.
So, what does that tell us? It means a huge part of the government's support for agriculture comes from lowering the day-to-day costs for farmers rather than just through direct schemes. It's a massive balancing act.
Okay, let's move on to the core of the ministry's budget now. Let's see how its biggest schemes are designed to directly support farmers on the ground.
First up, the heavyweight champion, PM Kisan. This is the government's flagship direct income support scheme, the one that sends money straight into farmers' bank accounts. And it gets the biggest piece of the pie among all the welfare schemes. We're talking a whopping 63,500 crore rupees. I mean, that's a massive chunk of the ministry's entire budget, all going to this one program.
But it's not just about, handing out money. The government has some really specific targets. They want to get 9.5 crore beneficiaries enrolled. And here's the key part. They're tracking to make sure that 3/4 of farmers actually use that money for what it's for. Things like seeds and fertilizer.
All right, next up, managing risk. Because let's face it, farming is unpredictable, and that's where the crop insurance scheme is supposed to come in and act as a safety net. For this, the budget carves out over 12,000 crore rupees. It's a pretty serious investment aimed at protecting farmers from financial disaster if their crops fail. And you can see here, the real focus is on getting things done fast. They're pushing for 90% of claims to be paid digitally, and they want 80% of them settled within just 1 month. For a farmer who's just lost everything, that speed is absolutely crucial. Finally, let's look at the long game with the RKVY scheme. This isn't just about support for today, it's about building a more resilient, stronger agricultural sector for tomorrow.
With a budget of about 8,500 crore rupees, RKVY gives money to states so they can plan and carry out projects that fit their own local needs, whether that's new infrastructure or better technology.
And the targets reflect that broad vision. Get 500 new projects going across the country, expand micro-irrigation to save water, all with the ultimate goal of making farming a more profitable business. So, beyond these big flagship schemes, the budget also gives us some pretty strong clues about where the government sees future growth. You can see which sectors are being prioritized just by, following the money. And this comparison it's really something. The spending on traditional crop husbandry absolutely dwarfs the money going to animal husbandry. Now, there is investment in allied sectors like dairy and livestock, but the numbers don't lie. They reveal a clear, continued focus on cultivating crops as the main engine of Indian agriculture. Okay, so with all this money being spent, how do we actually know if it's working? The government has a specific framework to measure success, and believe me, it's about a lot more than just spending the allocated funds.
It all comes down to this difference between outputs and outcomes. An output is something you can count easily, like how many farmers did we enroll in a scheme? But an outcome, that's the real-world impact. Did that enrollment actually lead to higher farm incomes? That's the important question.
And this isn't just an idea, it's official policy. This quote is from the government's own monitoring framework, a document designed to shift the entire focus from just outlay, how much we spent, to measurable results. It's a really big deal.
And this brings us to one last critical question to think about. When you look at the massive spending on subsidies and direct support versus the funds for research and transformation, what does that tell you? Is this budget's priority to provide stability right now, or is it to pave the way for a different kind of agricultural future? It's a question of balance, and it's really the key takeaway from this year's budget.